Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hello. Wow. Technical difficulties. That's fun. So welcome to the Psychic Hour on WLTKDB. Let's Talk Radio. It's lovely to see you. We have Jessica Glick as our guest, and she's very multifaceted with her passions, with intuition, and we're going to dive into her backstory, her development, and what she does within her career. And I really like to talk to people who have that background of they have multiple things they bring into their work, because I know a lot of people who are very passionate about multiple areas in their life. I am too as well. So I'm a psychic medium, a numerologist. I do healing work. And it has been difficult in the beginning stages, definitely, to give time and attention to different things and to build up different skills. But it was funny in a way, because it's almost like life would open up these pathways where I would have more emphasis and time on one area versus another. From year to year, there would be like more of a theme, like, oh, I'm doing more healing work this year. I'm doing more psychic work. I'm doing more mediumship work this year. More teaching this year. And so it all finds a way. It all finds, a way to express itself, this passion inside you. And there's some things that you do say goodbye to. I used to be more active in NLP. That was for a short period, but it's important to talk about. I was very, very much attracted originally to NLP because I thought it was very fascinating to learn about communication in the body. And I really learned about it actually as a teenager and a young adult. I studied it myself. And so I was very okay, well, I would like to actually take a full-fledged class in this to understand how accurate, my learnings were, or how really impactful this is. And it was a very extensive class. It was like a 5-day class, and then I took a 14-day class, and I got certified and things like that. And so it gave me this very solid perspective. And that's what some of the modalities do offer for us. It gives us this time to cultivate maybe one skill, but at the end of the day, we needed that perspective to give more time and energy to something else. And we take the learnings and we go, okay, now that I know this, I'm more confident about that. And that could be more confident about your healing, your reading skills. And that's what it was for me. NLP, for instance, and this is what I just naturally am talking about. This is kind of the topic of the day, modalities and how things change and how things grow within your business or within your offerings of what you do with other people, with what you love in life. With NLP, at the end of the day, it was a very cerebral world. It is. I mean, from the perspective of entertainment and performance, the magicians use NLP. And then from a therapeutic perspective, NLP is a sister of hypnosis. So it puts people into trance states to help change the way their brain makes decisions. And it's all in a way where the person is always in control because they're saying, I want to do this. I'm diving into this way of thinking. I'm diving into this way of feeling because I'm an active journeyer with saying, I'd rather think and choose and feel this. So from a therapeutic perspective, it's very fascinating. From a people understanding, it's a place that's very fascinating. And from a public aspect of whether you're demonstrating or you want, to have things more in the limelight. It's very interesting from that perspective too. At the end of the day, I use NLP really from a therapeutic perspective. I do. I find that when I'm doing coaching, I don't do a lot of it, and that we'll talk about that too. When I do coaching, I would use NLP principles because it would really help put a person at ease, or would guide them in the direction of their goal, and it would give them additional insight into why their goal was or wasn't working. And it was very like, it's a very transparent process between the two people. It's really cool because you get to see like, hey, we're gonna try these series of exercises. Let's see what your brain does, and it's really cool. But at the end of the day, it can be quite cerebral unless you really take the reins with it and use it in that therapeutic coaching package exclusively. And so, yeah, like over the years, with coaching, I think it's great and I think it's fantastic. And I actually do have a lot of passion with coaching, but it didn't spark as much as all the things that I wanted to do with being the full extent of who I was. So I do mentoring, but it's in the vein, and a little bit of coaching, but it's all in the vein of psychic development, spiritual development, intuition, um, people learning about their mediumship, healing skills. And so that exactly was like where my pieces fit. And so I was like, great. And so it's all about integration. And so I'm just giving you perspective through my own story. That's how I integrated. I just became a better teacher and a better mentor through foundations of coaching, through foundations of NLP, and understanding how people communicate, because a lot of us, we're all trying to communicate and we're wondering why we're not getting the results we're getting. We go, I'm doing A, B, and C, as I say a lot. Why am I not getting the next in line? What's going on? And so to give that perspective to people who are going through mentoring, it makes things a lot more connective. And so that's how I use things going forward. But I still do a lot. I still do psychic. I still do mediumship. For me, psychic and mediumship, those readings are very similar and very different. So there's two skill sets to really develop. And I do a lot of healing work. I used to do a whole bunch of healing work. I'm kind of more in the vein of readings this year. But yeah, I used to do just, I was 5-6 times a week, right? That would just be boom, 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 always healing, as well as other things, but it would just be a lot of healing appointments. So through that, I've become very sensitive to the human body. And so it enhanced the way that I've connected to read people, to scan people's bodies, to feel things within their bodies. And I do readings quite differently because of all my healing background. And so there are times where I go, what do I want to do exactly? Okay, there's these questions that I do have, and I love teaching healing, but I go, ooh, I'm feeling more in the vein of teaching energy and teaching the reading aspects of energy, right? So I teach far more intuitive development classes than I do Reiki certification classes, but it used to be the other way around. And I'm usually always, every year I teach Reiki certifications, right? So it's in me and it's something from my heart, absolutely. But we pivot in certain ways with what life gives to us and what makes us happy. And it's tuning into what really makes me happy about my intuitive and spiritual journey. Like what really does that for me? And my answers a lot of the time go with the intuitive development, right? And energy understanding. So that's an umbrella. And my numerology fits into that perfectly. My healing fits into that perfectly. My psychic mediumship fits into that perfectly. And the mentoring and that smidgen of, what tailors with those for that year. It goes together. And if I ever feel, I'd rather be doing more of that this year, I do that, because you have to listen to your soul. I mean, this is soul work. This is soul work. And if you're not impassioned through your passions, and really think about that, you will start to get drained. It's true. It's so very, very true. So as you can see, I've streamlined, I've learned through myself in this work, as I hope that you do too. It's very important to really go, okay, I'm here, and what's the next step? And what am I truly building within my life? And you have to invest in yourself. That's what I'm saying. You have to invest in yourself, where you are taking these chances, because how can I put it? I knew NLP was important for me, but I knew it wasn't going to be a big part of my professional life unless something really surprised me in it. And so something did surprise me in it, and I leaned into a certain direction in it, but then I found what I needed to find through that, just like you will too. And I say this because it's like some people get discouraged. They're like, put my time, my energy, my efforts into this. I thought I was going to be this. I thought I was going to do that, right? And all of a sudden, I don't know where I really want to go. And I want to say hi to Jessica Lesede. I think that's right. That's a beautiful name, Lesede. Ray, hello, hello, hello. And so, yeah, for anyone coming in for the first time, it's an interview series. So this is a place where you can ask questions with the guest, where you can ask questions with me, and it's all regarding psychic development, mediumship, or your personal experiences. So no readings, but it could be your personal experiences, like this happened to me once. What does it mean in your perspective? Or can you give me more insight? Or can we just talk about it? Because sometimes people want to share kind of something cool they came across too, and it promotes more discussion. So that's the part of things. And regarding just everything coming together for yourself, it's a lifelong journey. I know people who are, in mediumship for 30 years. And that's an achievement. And they are talking now about, changing the way that they do mediumship, or changing the perspective of how, let's say, a certain school does mediumship. And it's becoming more and more accepted. So it's like change is inevitable, even for the greats, even for the institutions. Change is inevitable, change is life. And so if your life is changing, but let's say you're at an early period or halfway, right? Just embrace the change. That's what I have to say. And it's great to have these multiple points of stimulation and inspiration, So on my reading show, that's Friday, I do card readings through cards I've made by myself that I was inspired to make over my life. And I've talked about why I made those cards, and I did it for specific classes at certain times. Like they all had purpose. It just naturally came together. And I do numerology readings too. And again, there's some months and there's some years where I'm more inspired by numerology more than others, or card reading less or more than others. And you just got to trust that there might be some funny, funny is a fun word to use, but there might be some special reason why, you need to use a certain modality for a certain time period, and just to trust with that, and to know that you're diving into yourself. And also sometimes someone else needs that perspective in that way. How can I put it? I look at the different modalities, or like, the different things that we do within a reading or session, kind of just like the spontaneity of spirit, and knowing that you need to have trust and belief in spirit. Because sometimes I'll do a reading and I'll go like, gosh, that was rough, that wasn't that great or whatever. And I did things, I was looking to do things a certain way, but I kind of just let it be. And someone will be like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, like here you go. And like they'll surprise me, right? And they'll be like, all right, how long till the next one? And I'll be like, oh yeah, you should wait a little bit, but yeah, we can talk about, like, they're so gung-ho, right? Because whatever I said, they needed that in that way, and I just didn't overthink it. I just used the tools at hand, and I just was like, okay, I expected to go this way, but here we go, right? Just like we expected our mediumship, or maybe our coaching or psychic development, to go a certain way, and right? Life hands us this. And then there's been readings where, oh my gosh, like I'm like, proud of myself because I'm just nailing like all this evidence. And I'm just like, yeah. You have to pep talk yourself and celebrate things. And like afterwards, they're very happy, sure, because you can feel if someone's happy or not, but they're not as apt sometimes to come back because maybe you fulfilled that need, or I'm sorry, like you shouldn't ever think it past the end of the session. You shouldn't overthink it. And it's just however life flows, embrace it. And as long as it feels good, and as long as you're surrendering, and as long as, like, even if you question, I feel good about this, but I'm not sure, that's not the typical way of things for me, just know that you gotta follow that feeling. You gotta follow that feeling. And I talk about that a lot. So, okay, we will be back in a moment with Jessica Glick, and we'll see you very soon.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
And welcome back. We're gonna bring in Jessica. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, how are you, Kelly? Nice
I'm
to
doing
be
good.
here.
It's great to have you. I want to introduce you to everybody. So welcome.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome. Absolutely. Jessica Glick is a psychic, evidential medium, clairvoyant, medical intuitive, energy healer, certified astrologer, and sound bath healing practitioner. She tunes in with the soul of her clients and clients' departed loved ones, offering insight and guidance for what messages the recipient needs to receive. Jessica is based in Los Angeles and does readings all over the world via phone or Zoom. Welcome, Jessica, again. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So nice to be here. Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Good. Just busy. But that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm off to the airport in a couple hours. I can feel you. Yeah. Busy.
Yes. Yeah. So what would you like to talk about today, Kelly?
Oh, anything and everything. It's just very natural. I always invite people on and I go, hi, tell me about your backstory. Growing up, did you have experiences that you knew about to lead you down this path where you are now? I like to start there a lot.
Yeah. So just to Cap, I always knew I was different. I think that's with everyone that has these abilities, but never was into paranormal, actually, never into like the spiritual. I actually try to run away from it and avoid it and seeing spirit. And my family actually didn't support it and thought that's not really something professional to do. So I kind of avoided it and still was doing meditation, always did meditation, and saw Archangel Michael in a meditation. And basically, he said, it's time to get started. It's time to do your spiritual work. You were born a healer, and I'm here to work with you, basically assigned. So he taught me about energy healing, that I have that ability, and started working with people doing energy healing, helping others. And then he taught me how to see through the body and to scan the body clairvoyantly. And I wasn't really doing psychic readings or mediumship at this time. This was in my mid 20s, we're over 25 years ago. And he started teaching me how to see into the body, how to see the aura, how to feel the energy, where the blockages are. And it was really powerful as I was studying and learning and studying medicine. And now currently that's one of the things that I do. I do the psychic readings, I do mediumship and the medical intuitive. But what's unique about the medical intuitive work is that it's kind of like, for me, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, as you know, Kelly, when we do psychic readings, we blend with the soul, we work with the soul. And mediumship, we work with the departed soul and kind of get the story, like see the story of it. So with the medical intuitive, it's kind of like that. But what's a little different is I'm kind of seeing the story of the physical body, and not so much the soul, whereas energy healing is more about the soul. So people that come to me, they look to kind of figure out what is going on with their body. So I'm kind of like the last resort kind of person. And, a lot of times it's like the pressure of, I've been to all the doctors and I can't understand what's wrong with me. They've put me on this, they put me on that, and I just can't get better.
Sure.
So what I do is I clairvoyantly scan through the body, see where it's coming from, what the causes are, because I don't like my clients to really tell me what's wrong, if it's the hip or if I'm having migraines, because, as an energy healer, as usually it's not the source of the issue. So I like to work with a clean slate. I scan the body and I go into an altered state. That's also how I do my psychic readings, my mediumship, kind of like a trance-like state. Now, when I wanted to embrace my mediumship and study mediumship, I studied under Andy Bing and did some workshop with Mavis Patilla, who just recently departed. And they both told me I should have my eyes open and, to connect with the client, but I can't seem to do that. It just doesn't work for me. I have to go back to my Archangel Michael teachings and how he taught me that I'm just naturally like a trance, medical intuitive. So that's how I do my work and look through the body. And because of my background and knowledge with medicine and nutrition, I'm able to pinpoint and get to the source and put them on a treatment protocol. And then there are times where there are like the aura and chakra clearings. And that would go more into like the spiritual, almost like a spiritual reading assessment. That's different than a medical intuitive reading where I'm really just going on the physical body.
So
And
if Oh, go ahead. If I
Yeah.
may ask, so when you said Archangel Michael came to you in your 20s,
Yes.
so what was the first step you took towards, I guess, developing what he taught you?
Yeah, so just to go back to that, because it is quite a long story, but I'm gonna try to give you snippets. I didn't believe it was Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
I thought it was my imagination, and there's no possible, because I didn't even know who Archangel Michael was. But then when I read about it, I was like, there's no way that Archangel Michael is visiting me, because I was a rebel, just not spiritual, not a goody two shoes kind of girl. But that's a whole other story. So I asked him for proof. I said, well, if this really is in fact Archangel Michael, then I want the phone to ring at 7:34 p.m. tonight. And if the phone rings, I will know this is in fact who it is, who you say you are, and then I am willing to work with you.
Oh,
You know,
wow. That's very specific. Yeah.
yeah, I said, you know what? I better get. I have a Virgo moon, so I was like, let me get specific. Let's just get like very grounded about this. And the phone rang at 7:34 p.m. and it was my grandmother, and she said, "Oh, I didn't mean to call, the house. I meant to call my sister." And I said, oh my God, okay. So I went into meditation the next day, and I just sat in my trance state. He came through and started teaching me about spiritual laws of the universe. It wasn't like, okay, this is the work we're going to do. It was more about helping me understand my life purpose, spiritual laws of the universe, understand cause and effect, understand energy. It was very much like a spiritual 101. And every day when I would go into meditation, he would give me like teachings. And this went on for a couple of months. And then slowly he started to help me understand how to feel energy in my hands and, be in tune to people. And then I had a friend who had a injured disc in her back, and she couldn't get out of bed. And no one really knew about what I was doing. I was keeping it a secret because growing up, in my family, it wasn't welcomed, mediumship, spirits, and that sort of thing. So I said, well, maybe I can help you. So I did some energy work, remembering what I was taught. And within a couple of days, she got out of bed and she was fine. And I asked her not to tell anyone, and she told everyone. And, and it was at that moment that people in the community started calling me and saying, I have this issue, I have this issue. So I was doing solely energy healing work. And then over time, it took about a year for me to fully understand how to clairvoyantly see through the body, how to really understand what the liver looks like with certain conditions, how I see the kidneys, how I can see dehydration, how I could see if the thyroid is underactive or overactive, how to see the brain waves, the lymphatic system. If there's an issue with the gut, if there's parasites, how to see those parasites. Because the way I see everything is like a black and white X-ray. And then things are moving within the body. And I've learned now over the years how to interpret it. And it's kind of similar to like the mediumship, when we do mediumship, and go into that and we see the pictures and feel things. It's kind of like we're interpreting it. It's very similar. But I'm looking at the X-ray and sorting through everything that I'm seeing in the body. So it took some time and a lot of medical research. I would have to learn about the physiology, biochemistry, and nutrition of the body. And over the years, I was able to treat my own health condition. I had early onset rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. that runs in my family. And it was over time and doing the healing work and understanding the body and diet through the research I was doing, I was able to reverse that and heal through that. Yeah.
Well, if I may ask, because that is so, that's such an intense healing journey. Did you know that you wanted to work that way initially, or were you like, okay, I have to do this? Were you humbled into it, or were you excitedly like wanting to heal it that way?
Yeah, I didn't want to. There was a lot of resistance, but I kept getting signs that I needed to do this work, you know. And I went to a psychic, and a psychic brought this up and said, "You're an energy healer. You're a gifted psychic. You need to embrace it." So it took some time, but then I fully embraced it by my late 20s, but not the mediumship that I was still concerned about. I felt that spirit would always be following me involuntarily. And that was only later, in my early 40s, that so this was over 5 years ago that I fully embraced mediumship and now doing mediumship. Yeah. But now I can't see doing anything different. I've had other jobs along the way. This was always like a side thing, but I know that it's what I need to be doing. And like you said earlier, when you were talking about how fulfilling it is, you know, that, you know, you don't feel drained when you're doing something that's fulfilling. And I could absolutely agree with you on that, that I don't get drained. You know, people ask me all the time, they're like, you know, because I do quite a few psychic readings and medical intuitive a day. You know, I do over 25 readings a week. And people ask me, how do you not get tired or drained? And I say, it actually does the opposite. It
Yeah.
actually energizes me because I'm raising my vibration, because there's nothing more gratifying, at least for me, is to help others and help, you know, with guidance. And, you know, I like to say I'm the messenger and I just work here. It's kind of what I say to my clients and my kids. I say, I just work here, but it feels very gratifying, and that's why it doesn't feel draining. Yeah.
That no, I mean, that feeling like leads you, right? That feeling leads
Yeah.
you. And so did you start training under like any modality with your medical intuitive knowledge? Did you like, for instance, like Carolyn Mace, she was a well-known intuitive at the time. Did you start reading books, or were you going to Archangel Michael and you're like, I need to have you guide me beyond, like, let's say the couple of months where he was giving you downloads every day? How did you start taking steps forward? Um,
Yeah. I really solely was learning with Archangel Michael, and then he basically said our work together is done, because that was, I only worked with him for 7 years, and then I met my spirit guides. And I didn't read any books on other medical intuitives. It's just not how my path was led. It
yeah.
was solely with the other dimensions, and that's how I learned, and that's where my teachings came. So I didn't really study under anyone other than from the spirit world, if that makes sense. And
Best place. Best place.
yeah. So you know, with some resistance here and there, I don't know how good of a student I was, but that was really the way that I learned. And as I would have clients with different health issues, I would be figuring that out along the way, and then my spirit guides would help explain things to me, and you know, so it just strengthened over time.
What
And
did
then
you find?
later I learned about the other medical intuitives. Yeah.
If I may ask too, because you referenced your rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia,
Yeah.
you're working with other people. What did you learn about yourself? That's one of the avenues, but what did you start learning about yourself, like wow, I'm able to observe this in people, and if only they could do this, right? Or I'm able to see that this causes this, or this is, connected to this now. How did your life start to change?
Yeah, great question. I absolutely did start to see that over the years that, oh, this was because of what was in my heart. This is because of what I've been holding on to and the issues in my life. I started to really see it's not, and Archangel Michael was really helping me with that. But there were some things that, and I wrote those things down, there were some things that took years for me to understand and go, oh, that's what he meant about cause and effect, and that the physical body is the last resort. So I was absolutely realizing why that came into my body, why I received the fibromyalgia. And and still to this day, as I work with people, even with psychic readings, especially, that there's that reflection of what I'm still working on, what's still on my path, spiritual growth and teaching and learning, that I could do a psychic reading for someone and then go, oh, wow. So I need to remember that as well. And the same with health and where that comes from. Because a lot of the health elements that I see with the physical body, a lot of it has to do around the space of the heart. It has a lot to do with holding on to pain, holding on to the past. And then and then of course there's the specifics of where that leads to in the physical body, which areas we see that imbalance. Yeah. So absolutely.
That's a very powerful statement. Do you see any issues within someone's energy or body when they hold too much energy, let's say in the head or the gut too, as well? But I agree tremendously. The heart is like, whoa, that's what balances us and gives us,
Yeah.
half a chance most times. But do you see that in the head or like the gut? Like, whoa, like when someone holds too much energy in this place or doesn't let go of it, I'm seeing a condition. I'm seeing a
Yes.
condition.
Yeah, a lot of the gut stuff that I see when we have overpopulation of bacteria, pathogens, or yeast overgrowth, I see a tie in with that particular person having issues with self-worth, self-value, the confidence, but also that they're not fully embracing the aspects of their soul and not fully doing what their soul's purpose is. So I do see a lot in that area. I actually had a client, a psychic reading just earlier this week, that I saw that she has a lot of pressure in the head and she has a lot of headaches. And because when I do a psychic reading, a lot of my clients just want me to look at whatever. And I said, well, you're a medium, you connect with spirit. She says, yeah, I actually hear things. I said, yes, that's why you have those pressures. So I gave her some tools and what to do and the type of meditation to help release that. So that can also be from somebody who's actually intuitive and just not using it or funneling it, or harnessing it properly, that could be created. Or it could also be a lot of doubt, people that have a lot of doubt or tend to look at things pessimistically. Those people a lot of times have issues in the throat and issues with the head. Yeah.
Well said, well said. When you were going forward within your journey, because obviously this came to you, like this was one of the first things that came to you, your medical intuitive downloads. I know that you are certified in sound healing and you do astrology. So and we kind of talked about this early in the show, like sometimes we're led in other modalities because they give us perspective on who we are. So
Yeah.
how did those modalities help shine light on areas in medical intuition for you?
Yeah. So the astrology I studied in my early 30s because I love astrology. I think it is so fascinating how we choose when we're born and all the planets, where they are, how they're aligned, the signs. I just think it's so fascinating that we're all, and tell my clients this, you are a custom made vehicle, driving through life. And I tell, people like, and just going back to medical intuitive for a second, I say, just because you read that, dairy is good for you, or, coffee is really high in antioxidant, just because you read those doesn't mean it's good for you, because you're a custom made vehicle. So I always like to remind my clients, and just back to the astrology, we're all custom made vehicles. So I find it fascinating and love doing astrology charts for people, because for me, that's a very big self-empowerment tool. Really very much about self-discovery, self-empowerment. And I love that, and I love to give that to my clients the best way that I can. And with the sound bath, I was very intrigued with sound bath because I was receiving messages for some of my energy healing clients. Before COVID, I would do a lot of in-person energy healing. And the last 2.5 years, I haven't been able to do in person. So I've been doing it on Zoom, scanning the body, but not really doing the energy healing. Because for me, I need to be doing it in person, where some people do distant. It's just not the way I was taught. So I would get these messages from their guides that sound healing would be one of the modalities for them. So I would say, well, I can't work with you because you're not responding to the energy. You need the sound healing. And then I started getting interested in learning about it, and found a woman in Redondo Beach, California, by the name of Geraldine Glass, who's one of the most renowned sound bath healers. And I did a few weekends with her and just studied it, and see how for some people, especially when it comes to the nervous system, when it comes to the brain, circulatory, endocrine issues, that they really benefit from sound bath healing, because sound very much is a healer. Very strong healer is what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
So you talk about like the nervous system, circulatory. So when you see that, when you're scanning someone, or maybe they come to you and say, hey, I'm really going through these issues, is that one of the first things you go to?
Yeah. If I see that they will resonate better with that, I'll say, you know what, let's do some sound bath healing. And then, we'll just finish, and then we'll just reschedule and create a space for sound bath healing. Yeah.
What type of instruments do you use, like a gong or bowls, or what are your tools?
So I use alchemy bowls. So I have an endocrine set, is what it's called. So it's also connected to all the chakras. So it's quartz combined with other crystals. So I have one with red rock from Sedona. I have a Larimar one. I have an amethyst one. I have a citron one, and some other bowls. And just use them as the sound bath, not really any gong. Yeah. So they're all with crystal. So the crystal energy also comes through.
Wow, that sounds really like pretty. I actually, I'm like, do you have them around? I want to see them. Yeah.
I have them in the other room, but next time, of course. But they are beautiful. There's the brown and the pink. I also have a rose quartz one where it's like a muted dark pink and blue. You can actually see them on my website. I think there's a picture of me working with them. Yeah. So that's what I use. I use where it targets the endocrine system, because I found that it's the endocrine system and the nervous system that it really penetrates. Yeah.
So the endocrine system, if I may ask too, is that like reproductive, or is it connected to some other things too within the
Yeah.
nervous system? I would imagine too, but tell me a little bit more
Yeah, of
about.
course. So the endocrine system targets your thyroid. It targets your lymphatic system. Yeah, and there are also some other part circulatory system. Endocrine system also affects the heart. It also affects the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, which affects stress, how we handle the stress receptors. And the nervous system is also the parasympathetic nervous system as well as the sympathetic nervous system. I see a lot of people having irregularity with their HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenals. So the adrenals are also very much part of the endocrine system. So it targets those. The sympathetic, parasympathetic is very much what a lot of people have out of balance because of the stress or trauma. Trauma is also something that affects the nervous system. Yeah.
And I know everyone's different, but how do you see people responding to the sound therapy, or what else insights that you give them? Like examples of, what some transformations have been.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, when I'm doing it, I watch the aura, so I see how it's helping. But what I get a lot is the sleep is better. Interestingly, bowel movements are better, which makes sense because
Yeah.
if your nervous system is calmer, you're going to have better elimination.
Yes.
So there's also a sense of like calm. They're able to meditate better. There's less blockage. That is a lot with the sound bath. Also with gut, the ones that have like pain in the gut, it also helps greatly. Even though the gut is not part of the endocrine system, but I think when we calm the pituitary, when we calm the adrenals and the thyroid, the stomach and the pancreas, it all gets that healing benefit. Because it's all, as you know, the physical body, it's all linked together. So for some people, they get it that way, others that way. So it's always amazing to me how people respond, and I just love hearing that from my clients and take mental notes of it, for the future, because I always love to learn, and my clients are my best, teachers. So everyone really is different. I can't stress that enough.
Oh yeah, everyone is different, and the
Yeah.
stories are just so fascinating because
Yes.
sometimes you'll see someone next week and they'll tell you something, you're like, whoa. And then there's like times I'm sure that, someone just, you didn't bump into them until like 3 years later, and you're like, whoa, I wonder what happened to you. And they're like, let me tell you, like, like, and you like, you wonder like, oh, why didn't they reach out? Like, this is an
Yeah.
amazing story,
I
right?
do get that, where they'll say to me, "Oh, you treated me a year ago, and I'm so good now, but I need now a psychic reading." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's right. You had that health issue. I'm so glad to hear that." And then they'll reach out for like a psychic reading. A lot of my, because I everything for me is word of mouth. I'm a horrible self promoter. As you can see on my Instagram, I just don't have time to do that. But a lot of it is word of mouth. So they, and then after that, they'll want to do like a psychic reading and kind of like get those aspects of their life and understand that better once the physical health is better, or the reverse, where a psychic reading, I'll bring up health issues, and I'll always say, well, I'm also medical intuitive, and I'm able to see that. So kind of overlaps. Yeah, but fascinating stories for sure, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm always kind of blown away by hearing aspects. Also, okay, so you talked about how like mediumship came into your life because guides started showing themselves to you, or you started developing yourself with your guides. So how do you work with guides now within your medical intuition?
Yeah, so my guides don't come through when I'm doing my medical intuitive
That makes
readings.
sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's been like so many years now that I'm like, okay, I got this. I think I got this. I'm pretty good. So I still speak to my spirit guides in meditation when, because I'm still human dealing with my own issues and where I need to grow and be reminded. So, always like looking for that guidance. But with the mediumship, I do the evidential mediumship. And yeah, that is more about just blending with the soul and their departed, and don't really have the connection of sometimes their spirit guides will come through, but not very often in my experience.
Everyone works so differently. And I always love asking because, people tell me stories. They're like, oh, my guides are always with me as I'm like scanning the body. And
Yeah.
like from my own perspective, when I'm doing healing, I go, I mean, they're there, but I'm not paying attention to them. But some people are so active within their relationship. So I always love to hear how
Yeah.
things work, right?
Well, when I do energy healing, like actual hands-on healing, I do have a healing team in the spirit world that I call on. But when I'm scanning the body to do like a medical intuitive read, like I go from the brain down to the feet of looking where the health elements are, that I don't work with my spirit. But when it's energy healing that I need to be a conduit, I bring my healing team. They kind of protect me
Sure.
and, not allowed to receive. Because I didn't mention when I first started and learning with Michael, I was a smoker. I smoked a pack a day, and he kept telling me to quit smoking because it's affecting my auric field, that I'm going to get sick continuously. Well, I didn't want to listen. I like smoking, and I was getting sick constantly. After healing sessions, I would get sick, always around my throat. And then I learned, well, that's because of my communication, of how I'm receiving. I'm not feeling I'm worthy enough. I'm not feeling that I should be doing this work in what I'm expressing. So, needless to say, I quit smoking. And then I worked on that and stopped getting sick and stopped getting ill. But very much I need to protect my energy. So my healing team, kind of is there for me and kind of watches and directs me where to bring the healing for the client. Yeah. So that's a little different. Yes.
So many different aspects.
Yeah.
Within your healing work, you talked about how you have your healing team. Like, if you may, and it's up to you, can you describe like who's in your healing team? Like if there's any additional angels or guides or
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have three specific angels that were assigned to me, and with one of my spirit guides that's always been with me, who is a Native American Indian. Yeah. So I have a team of four. Yes. And sometimes the client's spirit guides will show up and let me know why the health condition has been created. And so if we have time, we'll talk, and I never like to assume that I can just talk about people's emotional state and well-being, because they're looking for the physical body. So I'll say, if I may, is this okay with you? Are you comfortable talking to me? But your spirit guides came through and it's coming from this in your life. And then they will talk about, and then I'll give them some tools and how to work on that, and give them some healing tools that they can do at home. Yeah.
So do those guidance pieces come in then like directly through your team as well as what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm doing all of this in an altered state. So I always tell my clients, it will look like I'm talking, but I'm talking to my team, and kind of looks like I'm talking to myself with my eyes closed. It doesn't really look very pretty, but I'm very much in the altered state, in the trance. So, if there's a fire truck driving by, my client may get startled, but I don't get startled because I'm so, in tune to the non-physical, if that makes sense.
Yes. Speaking of that, so you being in tune and you being in a trance-like state and your team being there, if you can you share any stories about what, how can I put this? What energy started transpiring in the room, or what changes, or how, let's say, the spiritual met the physical energy? Like sometimes a room, you can almost feel like a room moving, or like things like, feeling different than your physicality, because it's almost like you've put yourself, you
Yes.
fixated yourself somewhere else, or you're connected to the client's energy, and like your relationship with time and space like really does change.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't feel the time and space. And interestingly, I don't even know when the hour is up when I'm doing hands-on energy healing. But as they start to go away, I know that I did whatever I can for the client. But generally, I start to feel almost like in a cloud. I guess I can say it like that. Like I feel like I'm in a cloud, and everything kind of feels dense, in like this heavy air. And then I start to see very bright golden color and blue. I don't see white light. That I just don't see that. And so it becomes very golden and blue. But then as I'm going through the body, I'm seeing through the body, but where I know that it needs energy healing, I'll like just grab it. It's almost like I'm being pulled to it. And then once I get there, it looks very almost like smoke, like a very dark smoke. And I have to try to get that in there, the energy that because I'm feeling it come through me. And when I feel it come through me and I'm really releasing and getting the energy, it almost feels like my hand is a rock and it's just breaking because it shakes very strongly, and I see like lightning.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, but that's when it's like I'm really getting through the auric field and to send the healing into the body. And I have to keep my feet planted on the ground because sometimes it feels like I'm being raised up. And then my healing team is always supporting me as I'm doing that. So I feel them around me. The energy around me is protected. So when I'm sending that, I'm not sending my own energy. And I will say also, because I don't really think about this, it's interesting, because as I'm explaining it to you, I don't really think, I just do it. But also my body gets very hot. And I start to feel like I'm perspiring, because I do tend to sweat. My body gets very hot. And it gets that way when I'm doing medical intuitive readings, but not as hot as when I'm doing hands-on energy. But then when I do psychic or mediumship, I don't feel my body hot. but I do feel my body like I want to get up from the chair. Like I feel like I talk with my hands a lot. So
Or bouncy, exciting.
yeah. So it's so true. It really is like different modalities within just this one like body within the soul of how I work. Yeah. Yeah, that's the best I could explain it.
I love it. And so like you kind of perked my interest when you talked about your hands like a rock that, and
Yeah.
like crumbling, and
Yes.
you can almost like feel like lightning going through. So I've if I may, just to like, because I'm curious, because I haven't heard a lot of people say that. I have that experience too, and when my arm or my hand feels like a rock, it's because there's so much tension and resistance, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
cool,
that's what
cool.
it feels like. Exactly.
You need the lightning to go through to break that up. Do you
Yes.
feel that? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. You're the first one that, so I can relate.
And
That's really
when
cool.
that happens, my body becomes like a tree trunk. And I could feel the sweat because it's coming through like such a bolt,
Yeah,
and then I'll go and but if it's like on the higher auric field of healing, I won't feel it as powerful as if it's on the physical. So
that makes
yeah, that's pretty cool.
really cool. I'm like, ooh, yeah. We gotta talk about energy more sometime, right?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. That's right. Exactly. It's like a tension. Yes.
It really is. It's a very like when you're connected to someone with healing, you can feel sometimes their not their physical state and also their energetic state. Not always, but sometimes you can feel it, and that resistance that they
Yes.
are moving past. Sometimes it's like, whoa, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And you feel like calcified
Absolutely.
almost, right?
Absolutely.
Or
And
whatever.
I also see trauma, I'm able to see trauma um in certain parts of the body and certain meridian points and chakra. And when I hit that, that's also where it's like, my body, is like, okay, let's do this.
Let's do.
Yeah.
I think that's like something, yeah, we'll have you on again. That's something to talk about too, because I think people don't understand how when you're connected to someone, whether you're sensitive, empathic, or you're doing energy healing or reading, there's so many overlays and there's so
Yeah.
many multiple experiences going on at once. And sometimes you know what they are, and sometimes you don't know what they are. And
Yes.
it's just like, you can talk about it for just hours if you really want to just dive in of, wow, okay,
Absolutely.
let's get into this and that. And so where I want to come back to is, I'm curious, what are you being stimulated in currently within your work to learn about? Because you said I'm a Virgo moon, so you have to have some more Virgo in your chart. You really do. But
It's actually the only thing I have Virgo.
oh, well, okay, interesting. So I only have like one Virgo in my chart too. I'm a Virgo and Mercury, but like my mind can be very Virgo, so that's interesting. That's interesting. So how? Keep going, keep going. I'm just like, oh,
Well,
interesting.
for me, the wanting to learn and research and all of that, just to give a little bit perspective,
Yes,
is I have
please.
4 planets in the eighth house, which is
Oh,
the house of Scorpio, and I
yes,
have Mercury in Pisces, which is naturally the spirit world.
yes,
So with all those planets and their personal planets, also the sun in the eighth house, Scorpio is all about the research, getting to the bottom of things, transformation. That has very much been like the integral of my life. It's very much about transformation and always like learning and developing and going deeper. Yeah. So right now, and it's always been actually, is the medical intuitive, the energy healing has always been for me just a personal place in my heart, because I know what it felt like to feel miserable every day. And while we all have different health concerns, I was debilitated and didn't want to get out of bed and couldn't take my kid to school. It was just such an uncomfortable 10 plus years of my life. So for me, when someone comes to me and says, I can't figure it out, that just holds such a place in my heart, you know. And I know in prior lifetimes, I was a surgeon and a medical doctor. So I think I'm always tuning into that. So that's always been a thing for me. But also the mediumship is just so fascinating, because of all the different people and the stories and who I've come in contact with. That's just a fascination for me. So, yeah, but always learning about health and medicine. And right now, I'm very much, I went back into mitochondrial, the mitochondrial and the parasympathetic system, where I was more into the sympathetic nervous system, really delving more into the mitochondria and really understanding the process of glutathione and growth hormones, and really how to strengthen that without supplements and how to do that energetically. And also the energy of water, to bring in healing in water. So this has been my own private tutorial that I've been working on, because I think we need healing water.
We absolutely do. We absolutely
Yeah.
do. I kind of had this, I'm still kind of exploring it. I'm huge on water. And, water helps definitely balance my energy. But I noticed just over this week, and I don't know if this stimulates any discussion, but at certain times, if I drink too much water, it can stimulate my emotions, which I didn't really realize that until recently. Makes sense, because it's such a, right? Water is a very emotional energy. You know what I'm saying? But it makes sense. But I was like, wow, I feel like I'm moving my emotions. I'm feeling like I'm moving energy so much that's actually sometimes debilitating me from doing things I have to do in the present moment, because I'm constantly flushing, moving, healing, releasing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But if we were to speak medically, I can also tell you from a medical biochemistry perspective, is when you drink too much water, you are actually releasing electrolytes such as magnesium and potassium. So when you're doing that plus doing energy work, whether it's mediumship, healing, which is also like the work that you do, that already depletes our electrolytes.
Yes.
So that's why when I have clients that are mediums or psychics, I say you need to make sure your magnesium, potassium, selenium, zinc is at a good level, because as you're doing your energy work, you're depleting it. So if you're drinking more water than you should, now you've depleted it further. So you may even feel weaker and a bit of a detriment, where you're more overly sensitive because you don't have those minerals. Those minerals are your grounding. And that's why empaths, when I get clients that say, I'm an empath, I can't be around crowds and people, I right away look at their mineral content. And I see they're usually low in the minerals. And so I tell them, okay, well, this is what we need, to increase. But also in the meantime, until you get those levels up, get a good piece of black tourmaline to help stabilize your energy. But that's where it's depletion of electrolytes.
Just have black tourmaline right next to me. I don't know when I was going to lift it up. I'm like,
yeah. I just want to show you, Kelly, this is how big my tourmaline I need on a daily.
So I'm going to make you laugh right now. Here's my big boy.
Oh,
I had a smaller one right next
wow.
to me.
I need one that size because sometimes I'm like, I really need to hold this for a really long time. There are some days it's just not enough. Oh,
I'm
that
a
is
big fan of
cool.
black tourmaline. I really am.
That is, I am such a big fan as well. I love black tourmaline. I really see it actually like affect and release energy. It's so cool. Sometimes I like to stare at it and just daydream.
Just hold it.
Yeah, and just like feel and go back to my early days of just feeling energy, because sometimes, I tend to get caught up and busy that, and that's just a reminder for myself. It's just to like take time and just feel, and not always go, go, go. So I kind of love that we're sitting and talking about this because I'm usually go, go, go.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice just to hunker down and be
Yeah,
like,
just talk about just the aspects of it. It's really cool.
gonna have to bring the bowls the next time. A
Oh
more
yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll do a little like sound bath kind of session. Oh, beautiful.
I have some fun stuff around here. It looks very barren, but there's actually a lot of fun stuff going on.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I love my crystals, and I have selenite behind me, and we feel it. We feel it, and a lot of people feel energy. They just don't realize it, or kind of like sitting in the moment of it. But we're all more intuitive than we think.
We're always constantly surprising ourselves. I really am a big believer in that. Gosh, the time has flown by.
Yes.
I want people to know where to come find you, though, and if you have anything that you are offering, whether your website that you want people to know about, please, please share
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can find me on my website. It's jessicapsychicmedium.com. Or go to my Instagram, although I don't really post much. But the best way really is to get a little more about my backstory or book a service is on my website, jessicapsychicmedium.com. And if they go into the comments page on my website, let them know that they saw me here. I'll give them 20% off. And yeah, absolutely. And there's no like 20% off click, but if they send me a message, I usually respond within 48 hours. Yeah.
Take advantage of that, everyone, please.
Yeah.
I always give my guests to the last word, whether it's something that, it is in your mind, an inspiration, or something that you like to just share with people, like to really just give something from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go into the current energy that's in the air that we're approaching is the Scorpio eclipse.
Ooh.
The Scorpio energy of the lunar eclipse that's coming up November 8th. And people will feel a lot of intense energy. And that's the energy that's in the cosmos right now. And with that, I just want to say, don't be hard on yourself and take the time of self-care. I feel like we don't do that enough for ourselves. And just to take time of being bored, just to be bored a little bit and just to take that time to just reflect and trust your authentic self and your authentic truth and listen to your intuition, because it's going to be very much that energy here in the next several weeks that things may get intense, but trust your intuition, take some of that self-reflecting time, and it'll lead the way. Yeah.
I can only imagine then how November is going to go. But
Yeah.
thank you for the heads up.
It's
I don't have
a lot of intense energy of being tested, whether we listen to authentic truth. Yeah, our inner voice. Yeah.
So take that to heart.
Yes.
be gentle on yourself. Upcoming,
Yes.
you heard it from Jessica Glick. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
It
you
was a
so
pleasure.
much, Kelly, for having me. This was fun. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, we weaved a tapestry of so many different, right? Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being here. Everyone, please, yes, go find Jessica Glick through her website. And I will see you next week. Please go with love, light, luck, and don't forget to live, everybody. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.